was relatively cheap. It's around the same price too, so it's definitely doable. We can definitely install one of those organic lights into our food cafeteria. Also, so with awareness of this food consultant, it became apparent to us that we must stay committed and active in our pursuit, because otherwise, bureaucracy will never die. Despite our setbacks, we have a considerable amount of faculty allies supporting this movement. So basically, this entire contract was pushed back towards next year. So we can't do anything right now, but come December, January of next year, we're going to see some changes, and hopefully we can set up a new group in there. Some things that have already changed, that have already happened because of the S4SJ group, is that we established, fair trade coffee. This was a little while back, and also we made subtle changes. We actually forced them to make subtle changes. They introduced hummus with pretzels, and although it's a small start, it's getting somewhere, and that's what we want going forward.
With the Justice for Loretta Capehart campaign, which may sound very self-serving, but actually this campaign is not about me. It's about free speech, academic freedom, and the right to defend both. It's about all of these things for all of us, not just me, not just professors. It's about protecting the rights of the 99% to engage in issues of public concern and to protect us from the 1% who seek to silence us. I am a rare exception today in academia. I am a tenured professor at Northeastern Illinois University, which is a public, highly diverse commuter campus designated as a Hispanic-serving institution. I was active in a strike against my administration in 2004, and I've had a long vocal history on the campus, engaged in things like the need to hire more Latino and Latina faculty, and against the war, the sponsor of the Socialist Club on campus, and an ally in many progressive causes on the campus. But for some reason, the administration doesn't like me very much. I don't understand why. They saw their chance to get rid of me, as one staff member had put it in 2006, very early in 2007. That's when the board hired a new president of the university. Normal activities continued, but they were treated in ways anything other than normal. In February of 2007, a group of about 7 anti-war club student members peacefully protested against the CIA recruiters on our campus, and 2 of those students were arrested and turned over to the Chicago police. All attempts to have them released failed, but at a meeting of the Faculty Council of Student Affairs, of which I was an elected member at the time, I chose to ask, along with other faculty, that there be a better way to deal with student protesters on campus. And at that point, the Vice President of Student Affairs, Melda Terrell, told me that I had better watch what I say, because I'm being investigated for stalking a student. I was literally silenced. After that meeting, other faculty, seeing my distress, told me, "Don't worry, he's just trying to shut you up." I believe that Terrell was trying to shut me up, but it worries me a great deal. Over the following year, I attempted to gain a retraction and an apology for this false statement, and we found out that that just wasn't going to happen. I tried every internal process available to me, including a grievance through my union. Stalking is a felony sex crime, and this is well known to Vice President Terrell, because he's written a book about campus safety in which he discusses this very serious problem. A professor stalking a student would surely require the revocation of tenure, the loss of a job, and the loss of a career. However, the claim against me by Terrell was not true and never had been. Now, because this was such a serious claim and there was an absolute refusal to retract it, I felt the need to consult an attorney, several in fact, and found one that's quite good. And we had to file suit in 2008. And as bad as the slander was, the university's defense of their slander is absolutely outrageous. They're making 2 claims in federal and state courts. The first is that this is a SLAPP case, and some of you may know about the anti-SLAPP legislation, also called the Citizens Protection Act, which I wholeheartedly support. This legislation was brought about to prevent corporations from slapping citizens with slander suits when we say things like, this developer is going to come in and destroy the character of our neighborhood by putting up all these expensive condos. In the past, the developer would be able to sue you for that and claim that you slandered them, right? And so this anti-SLAPP legislation was put into place to prevent that sort of abuse of the citizen's right to speak. And this is such a bizarre set of logic, if you just follow me here for a minute, because I have to get my head around this every time. But Terrell and the university are claiming that I have slapped them. They claim that I am like this big bad developer trying to shut them up. They claim that my claim of slander is not about the fact that I was actually slandered, but that I am attempting to silence them. It's such an upside down use of the act that I really have difficulty keeping it straight, and it just boggles my mind. Their other argument uses a 2006 Supreme Court decision known as Garcetti. This decision is outrageous and found that there is no free speech for public employees speaking in the line of duty, except in an academic setting, and that was a footnote. I believe that the ruling is an abomination in total, but that it has been interpreted by some federal courts, including the lower federal court in my case. It is also being misapplied to broaden its impact to include academic settings and activities well beyond those that are our official duties. Now, in academia, there are specific reasons that free speech is very important, that in teaching we have to be free to discuss controversial topics with our students. In research, we have to be free to speak and write about controversial topics in the community, whether that's on campus or off. And in service or shared governance, which is where a lot of our service comes down, we have to be free to speak and to write on the issues on and off our campus. Right? Shared governance is a particular concern, given that should we not have a right to speak freely, we can be retaliated against for our speech. Last year, our faculty senate voted no confidence in both our president and our provost, and the retaliation has been sharp. Yet faculty feel disempowered to do anything about that retaliation because they see very clearly what happens when you fight back. Since the slander against me, some of the retaliation I faced is I was elected to chair my department, and the administration refused to appoint me. I was given some awards that I earned. The administration actually put my whole department into something called a receivership. It's very corporate language, which meant that they had the right to run my department from the provost's office. Free speech is important to all workers, and particularly for public workers, as is evidenced in Garcetti. Caballos was the good guy in Garcetti. He's a DA in Los Angeles and pointed out that some evidence being used against the defendant was flawed. His boss would not act on this, so Ceballos actually went so far as to testify on behalf of the defendant to point out the problems with the evidence against him. And this kind of behavior, I believe, is admirable. In fact, I wish it were common. But the Supreme Court found that Ceballos should have kept his mouth shut, and that his employer had the right to punish him for not keeping his mouth shut. And this is why this case is so important and why it's been applied so broadly. But according to the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble to petition the government for redress. That the Supreme Court and many university campuses and other employers have done just this. In 2008, Sharon Haas, the president of the NEIU, brought a free speech code to the faculty senate. And this part of this free speech code may sound very familiar to you. Again, there should be no abridgment of free speech, but they needed 9 pages to tell us how abridged our free speech was. When it comes to protests, they found that, that we can express ourselves through demonstrations if right? We take all visual communications and we complete a reservation form and submit it in advance to the administrative office. And then when we submit these requests, we have to jump through all these hoops, right? That's for a demonstration. And in the way they describe a demonstration is basically one or more people getting together and having something to say about anything. That's a demonstration. And yet it took them 9 pages. The policy was withdrawn after fierce opposition in the faculty senate. The staff representatives had approved it. The student government had approved it. And if we lose this case, I have no doubt that this free speech code will come back to haunt us. Because who's going to dare to speak against it, or to speak against it, when we know very clearly that we can be retaliated against for doing that. As it stands now, our faculty is split between those who basically damn the torpedoes and those who literally abstain from every vote. Some of you may have seen that my university was in the press recently for this double-dipping scandal where, as it was pointed out here, they like to enrich themselves with our students' money by paying themselves double salaries for a while. Well, in the Senate, we decided that we were going to disavow that and ask that that not be done, a very controversial thing to do. 10 of us voted to disavow that sort of behavior, 0 voted against it, and 10 abstained. That's how split our Senate is, and those 10, I believe, are in fear. So what's at stake in this case for the 99% is our right to speak on or off campus. Imagine a campus where the faculty fear to speak. How will the students gain any confidence needed to sit in on the president's office or demand fair wage for campus work if their faculty are cowering in their offices, fearing the fates that await us? The 1% in their minion have much to gain should the 7th Circuit go their way. They will have the right to slander their enemies while hiding behind the law meant to protect us. They will have the right to silence even those who were meant to have the most protection. With no criticism coming from the progressives in academia, they have only the chorus of the supportive conservatives in the economics and business schools who sing their praises. The rest of us had better be careful what we say or write. We could be punished for our speech in the line of duty, such as teaching, research, and service, and even when speaking on issues of public concern not in the line of duty. Judge Manning, the lower federal court judge who applied Garcetti very broadly against me, implies in her decision that my advocating for students arrested in peaceful protests or joining them in anti-recruitment activities is part of my duty. Well, I might believe that this is my moral or personal duty. It is not my work duty. I get no credit. I don't get paid for that kind of activity. I wish I did. If I could be punished for speaking against the war with an anti-work club that I do not sponsor, Garcetti has not only been stretched to apply to academia, but has been stretched to apply to my entire life, not only my duties. And this is very dangerous. Whether engaged in my duties or not, I and everyone should have the right to speak. We need our voices, especially in these times. If we cannot object to the prosecutions of innocent people, if we cannot defend those engaged in peaceful protest, if we cannot write about the impact of coal dust on human health, we have not only lost our voices, we have lost all pretense of a democracy. When only those who lavish praise on the 1% are allowed to speak, only those willing to risk the consequences of our disobedience will speak. I fear that this will not include all of the 99%, but I hope that it will include enough of us that we can gain a true democracy for us all. And I brought a sign-up sheet if anyone would like to get involved in the campaign. And again, it's not just me. There are several people here involved in this campaign. If you'd like to get involved, please give us your name and email. Let us know how you want to get involved, and we'll be very happy to have you join us.
Empowering people.
So we have about 40 minutes for Q&A. I know there's a microphone there. I don't know if it's on. Can someone check? Perfect. So it seems a little bit formal, but I think if people were to line up to ask questions, we could use the mic so everyone can hear. And then if you do, introduce yourself and what organizations you're with. That would be very helpful. Thanks.
Hi, my name is John Mounts. I work with the National Lawyers Guild. It seems that increasingly in a world where information is essentially free. The price of higher education, on the other hand, keeps going up, due largely, it seems to me, to the fact that the system is somewhere between pointlessly elitist and a straight up scam. So the question becomes, how come there hasn't been an alternative yet? Where's a people's university where you actually have a decent quality education without all the garbage that runs up the cost for no reason? So if there are any theories on that, I'm really willing to hear them. Work on it.
Should we take a couple questions?
Yeah, take a couple.
Yeah, how about we take 2 or 3?
Yeah, my name is Kieran. I'm a graduate student instructor and a PhD student at DePaul University. I've also been active with Occupy Chicago and to a smaller degree with Cash. And I just wanted to raise the importance of paying attention to what's going on in Quebec right now. Everyone in this room who took even the slightest bit of interest in the state of the politics of the university absolutely must read about what's going on in Quebec. And if you can go there, that'd be even better. But if you can't, at least know what's going on and make sure your friends know what's going on. For the past 13 weeks, there's been a massive student uprising, which has involved somewhere between 150,000 and 350,000 students variously throughout that time, with the past 2 weeks, including 16 consecutive nights of rallies. This is in response to a 75% tuition hike that the Charest administration, which is the provincial government of Quebec, has attempted to shove through. And students have gone on strike in protest of it. And I think one of the things that you've seen, just to speak to in response to the last speaker, essentially the coercive browbeating of the administration of their own employees, their own staff in Quebec has been very ugly. So the employees of the Minister of Education, who often wear the symbol of the strikes out there, which is a red square, they've been seen wearing red squares to their own jobs. And they were recently instructed that they were not allowed to wear any symbol of support for the students at not only at their place of work, but in public as well, because they're considered as servants of the state to be to have a certain responsibility to the state now, of course, or to their office, right? So the personal and public divide becomes completely blurred at this point. And there's another interesting, on fully other side of the spectrum, foreshadowing of what we have in store for us that's being pushed through there as well, speaking of the public-private, which is that they're attempting, after the riots in Victoriaville and some of the other more intense student actions, to put through a law preventing anyone from wearing masks over their face during a public protest. Now, they initially proposed, this is a law that's been on the books in some other countries for a long time. In France, for example, it's very, very controversial. But they're proposing absolutely crazy penalties, between 5 and 10 years now, threatened jail time. And so what you see there is not only a massive uprising of students who are taking control of their own city and defending their economic interests against the people who have no interest in their well-being, but you also see the penalization of that kind of dissent. And it's an absolutely naked assault on free speech, on privacy, on employees' rights, students' rights, civic protest rights. And so I think it's really important, and I'll just wrap this up, just to pay attention to what's going on in Quebec right now, because should we be so lucky as to see a student movement in this country, as badly needed as I'm sure we all agree, we have to look for the lessons that Quebec is learning right now and pay attention while the news is still fresh, because that'll be the most instructive thing for us a few years down the road when it hits home here.
Those are great questions. The organizer have asked me if anyone owns a Toyota Highlander that's blocking the U-Haul trucks and it's being threatened to be towed. So I think we'll take one more question and then we'll let the panel respond. It's outside. It's a Toyota. That's like the license plate is L395345.
My name is Hector Reyes, and my organization is Professor Loretta Gayhart Household. So I'm also a professor of chemistry at the City Colleges of Chicago, which Rahm Emanuel is trying to turn into vocational schools. But I want to speak to her case. We can talk about that other stuff some other day. When I was in my 20s, early 20s, when I was at the beginning of getting involved in the student movement, I looked at South America, and it was full of dictatorships. Bolivia, Ecuador, everywhere there was a dictatorship, military most of the time. But I was always awed by their universities. In their universities, and this is something that we don't have almost anywhere here in the U.S., everyone voted for their deans, for their chancellor. I mean, and what I mean by everyone was including the janitors, not only the students and the faculty, everyone in the campus. And I said, wow, that's really a bastion of democracy there. And that is the last place to go in terms of freedom of speech and democracy is the university. When you lose it there, you have lost it everywhere else in society. And that's the point I want to drive through here, that if they manage to squash academic freedom and the freedom of speech in universities here, we are really in big trouble elsewhere. Because it is a very self-serving thing at the same time. When you look, when she was describing how I was remembering her case when this year people were trying to get the permits to protest NATO and G8, and Emmanuel was trying to pass a law that said that you had to bring the placards before to be approved by the city agency that he trusted. That was the same argument by the president of the college and the quote that she was expressing, that they wanted the leaflets that you might have pre-approved by their office. That's their idea of freedom of speech. And then this is the same people that have spent so far more than $250,000 in legal expenses in fighting her, while they give the faculty only a 1% pay raise per year, while they close down programs like women's programs that help mothers that go to school. They shut those down, but they have money to go and squander in squashing freedom of speech. So when they do that, it's doubly self-serving, because what they are doing really is squashing any possibility that people will object to that kind of injustice. And so it's an absurdity. They want to have it both ways. They want to say that Loretta has as her duties to organize protests and rally the troops and go and smash a CIA recruitment kind of campaign. But at the same time, they want to say, you know what? But you're not allowed to do these things, and we're going to punish you for if you do any kind of organizing against the war. If you ask to have more Latino and Latina faculty, there was a provost, and we have the recording of this in the Illinois Legislative Caucus went to her campus to question why, if more than 25% of the student body is Latino, there is only this many faculty members that are Latino. And the provost had the nerve to go and stand in front of that caucus and refer to Loretta by her name in saying that he disagreed. This wasn't a formal presentation of his own position, was already trying to squash her. So that's the kind of policy they have in that place. And unless we stand up and we understand that her case is a case for all faculty in the U.S., really, not only in her campus, but it's a case for everyone that really wants to have an opportunity to fight for a better life in this country against their 1%. If we don't fight this thing now, who knows where we're going to end up. Thank you.
Okay, can I ask the panelists to limit their comments to about 5 minutes? And there was a lot of people who still want to speak, so, and for the questioners as well.
I wanted to address especially the first two questioners. The person who asked, why is it with these incredible communication technologies at our fingertips, we can't spread education differently? Why is it that we have effectively a shitty higher educational system in this country when it seems like we have the means at our disposal to have a truly good one? And then the other person, Kieran, who talked about the student movement in Quebec, because I think the answer to the first question about why it is that we don't have a better higher educational system is related to the second question, the student movement that's going on in Quebec. So just quickly, I would say that in this country, compared to other countries which have nationally financed higher education systems, we don't have a federally financed higher education system. We have a patchwork of different schools that are financed in different ways, and the public educational institutions we have are state financed, and state budgets have suffered especially in the wake of the Great Recession, the financial crisis, and so forth, further undermining any kind of non-market-based means through which these organizations, institutions of higher education, can finance themselves. So I think a truly good higher educational system would be a publicly financed one in this country, and to the extent that we have one, it's very much under attack. And overcoming that and advocating strongly for a publicly financed higher education system, I think, is the first step. It's going to take a long time to implement that vision, though perhaps not as long as we would think if we put our minds to it. But it's a starting point in terms of, okay, here's what we need to change if we want to have a truly good higher educational system. We need a free, publicly financed one. And the second thing I would say is that can be achieved through a strong student movement. What's going on in Quebec right now, it seems amazing to a lot of people because as an American, to hear that tuition is going up a couple of $1,000s in the next however many years is amazing because so many of us are used to having to pay, so tuition at Roosevelt for 2012, 2013 is $25,000. That's not the comprehensive fee, that's just the tuition fees, 30-something when you add in all the other fees. So a couple thousand dollars doesn't seem like very much. But if you're committed to free public higher education, every dime you're made to pay over $0.00 is too much, and it's not fair and it's contrary to the values of education. So in Quebec, for example, other critics of some of the students have pointed out, and not just critics but observers have pointed out, that in Quebec, they enjoy some of the lowest fees in Canada. The response of the strikers has been right on. Why do you think we have the lowest fees? Because we get off our asses and come out and mobilize when that stuff is threatened. The logic is simple as that. If you're wondering why they have the lowest fees, all you have to do is see the mass mobilizations in the street to understand why it is that they have low fees. So that's the kind of mentality people need to get in. They need to understand that power truly flows from below in that way. And if we want things like free public higher education and other social goods like a decent public transport system, what it really takes is broad social mobilization to achieve those things. And with that kind of mobilization, I think we can put the kinds of information technologies that you're talking about to work in a different way from how they're being put to work. Now a lot of commentators on higher education have observed how what these technologies are doing is they're accelerating the process of casualization and allowing for the delivery of information while saving on the costs of any teaching, because it's essentially the technology that's doing the work free. I don't think we should be Luddites. I don't think we should object to technology simply because it represents something new or different, but we should seek.
Difficult to kind of work within these super oppressive structures that really, really, I guess, sort of don't allow any sort of resistance or questioning of anything. And so I'm really intrigued by your organization's CATCH. And I guess I'm just wondering what structures that you have within that group or what you do specifically. I know you talk about math